Since Spacies.
G'day invaders, welcome to Since Spacies, and for today's video I'm looking at Megazone magazine, which is an Australian video game magazine that I used to write for back in the early 90s. And I guess the reason why I'm talking about this magazine so much is because I just don't feel like there's any content on the internet, so I'm here to change that and make you guys aware of what we were getting up to here in Australia back in that era for video games, when the world was doing other things with EGM magazine and Mean Machines. While all that was going on overseas, here in Australia we were also buying up those magazines, but we had our own stuff to keep us occupied as well. So for today's video I'm concentrating on issue number 19 of Megazone. Now this is a magazine that I was just starting to work at Sega at the time when this came out, and I didn't have any contributions to make in this issue, so that's a bit of a downer. The next episode will debut some of the stuff that I managed to write for the first time, and that's sitting over there waiting to be featured on the next video. But for now we're just going to concentrate on this one. So for this issue they featured with Sonic the Hedgehog Action Game of the Year, and they were doing the 1991 Game of the Year awards. They even had a little award icon for it and everything, which is pretty cool. And they tell you straight up, Sonic the Hedgehog's the Game of the Year, so they really gave you no reason to buy the magazine. It was all revealed on the front. But let's dive into it. So when you open it up, straight away you're faced with Battle Isle Strategy from Ubisoft. I'm not aware of this game, so we'll move right along. It's not one that I played. Then you got, oh no, more Lemmings for Amiga, Atari ST, IBM PC and compatibles. So that was an ad that was being pushed at the time. And you got to remember that the magazine was owned by the software distributors, so they were basically putting their own ads in this magazine. They were PC and Amiga game distributors, so there was a big emphasis on those type of games, those platforms at this time. Then you've got another commercial, fancy that, for Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Again, another game that I never really got to play. You've got your editorial here from Craig Kirkwood. He was the editor, and this was to be his last, issue as Megazone editor. The next magazine onwards, which was to feature Stuart Clark, he was my editor, and that's when you noticed a huge change in the magazine. But we'll go through this one. You'll get to see what the magazine was looking like at this point, and then it got to become something, I think, a little more uniformed. So there's a little section here called Bettering Blackpool, and I'll read it out to you. It says here that something quite remarkable has come to our attention. It seems there is a place you can play 4,000 amusement machines. That's right, 4,000 arcade games. A daunting figure for Megazone readers. That place, friends, is Blackpool, England. True, it's not the prettiest location, but it does have, if nothing else, loads and loads of game magazines. Guys, in the UK, if you've been to Blackpool, which I'm yet to do, I do want to go on my next trip to the UK if it comes up soon. Is Blackpool ugly? Can you guys let me know? Because they don't really seem to rate it. The main activity in Blackpool is within a 1 mile strip along the beachfront, located between two huge amusement piers. Both piers have two large leisure centres, and there must be at least another 50 along the beachfront. Our person in England described it as arcade mecca of the world. They haven't been to Japan. But anyway, we will await photographic evidence, which never came. They never touched on that article again, I don't think. There's an issue there, an article there about Star Trek, to talk about the 25th anniversary. 25th anniversary, wow, I think we did the 50th anniversary. Now we're really dating ourselves. Anyway, so the next article here says, Sonic on the move. By the time you read this edition in your hot, sweaty hands, that irrepressible blue game fiend Sonic the Hedgehog will have been halfway around Australia and steadily heading north to the Sunshine State. Sonic has been overseeing the state finals of the Australian Sega Super Roadshow playoffs so it's talking about the Australian Championships, and I remember they made quite a big deal of this particular one, but the next year was a huge, actually no, that's right, it was this one. It was when I first started there. I just first started working for the company, and they had a massive, I'll put photos up, I'll dig them out and put them up. The Australian Sega Championships in 1992, it was huge in Darling Harbour. It's a shame they never had a 93 one, but anyway, so yeah, it was just an update about the championships. Also, it says here, Senna signs with Sega. World champion Grand Prix driver Ayrton Senna has signed an agreement with Sega to produce new series of Formula One racing games. The first game is to be called Ayrton Senna's Grand Prix 2. That was the only game he made, actually. So I don't know if it was to be a series, or maybe that was their initial, concept or idea. Sadly, in 1994, he ended his life in the Italian, San Marino Grand Prix. So that was never to happen. Alright, now we got the letters page. Now we won't go too much into every letter, but there was one letter here that got my attention, which is the letter of the month, and it says, "Dear Megazone, is your magazine intended for adults only? I read the November issue and decided that some of the material should not be read by children under 18. 17 is a child? Anyway, look at page 5 in the regulars section. Which word is frequently used? Crap. What about the language used in page 13 under Adventures of Willie Beamish? Bugger. What about the editor's response to the 2 letters to John Purvis? Bloody. And the other to Tory Bevan? Rack off. There was also one word used in Speedball 2 article, kick ass, and an article for Viz states that a vulgar word has to be used to get desired level. Bollocks. So that was from Mrs. Orr from Salisbury in South Australia. Dear Mrs. Orr, glad we made you laugh. But when you think about it, the whole magazine is just a bloody bugger, kick-ass, poo-poo, bum, wee, scum, fart, spit, burp, load of crap, so rack off, Ed. Okay. Yeah. It was different times. So they go on about the Game of the Year for 1991. And they start off with the best RPG game for 1991 was Eye of the Beholder from Electronic Arts on Amiga and PC. Runners-up was Ultima 5. I don't know much about PC gaming from back in that era, but should Ultima 5 have won that? I don't know. Guys, leave your comments if you're familiar with it. Best simulation game, Thunderhawk on the Amiga PC. And it beats Gunship 2000 and Chuck Yeager's Air Combat. Yeah, not familiar with any of these. Best action game of 1991 was Sonic the Hedgehog for the Master System, Mega Drive and Game Gear. I don't know if I can argue with that. I'm a huge Sonic fan, so I think I'll leave that one alone. Runners up though was Gods. Really? Gods? Okay, we'll move along. Best innovative game, Lemmings from Psygnosis. The guys that brought you Grand Theft Auto later. and the runners-up from that category was Railroad Tycoon. Best sports game was the Lynx Challenge Golf Access. Yeah, I think they're trying to push a few copies of that game, I think, because they gave runners-up to Joe Montana. Nah, I got that wrong. Okay, so they gave runners-up to Joe Montana Football, Electronic Arts Mega Drive. Guys, please tell me that they're talking about John Madden and they've got their dude wrong. Joe Montana set the standard for team sports, which has only recently been matched by EA Superlative Ice Hockey. A great, yeah. Well, they weren't really into their games in the console games anyway, it seems. Best adventure game of 91, The Secret of Monkey Island. This is the first game I think I've seen where I wholeheartedly agree. And the runners-up, Adventures of Willy Beamish. And then last off is the best puzzle game, Columns on the Sega Master System, Mega Drive, and Game Gear, and Tetris, the runners-up. Yes. This was the magazine I worked for. They gave Columns a huge rap over Tetris. Wow. And then we've got our top 10. Now these are the top 10 games for January-February 1992. Sega Mega Drive starts off with Super Monaco GP, and then it goes on to Sonic the Hedgehog, Fantasia, Arnold Palmer Golf, Super Hang-On, Shadow Dancer, Moonwalker, Golden Axe, Ghouls and Ghosts, and Mickey Mouse. Upcoming F-22 Interceptor. No. Then we got for the Sega Master System, Outrun, Shinobi, Summer Games, Mickey Mouse, Great Golf, Ghouls and Ghosts, Striker, Super Monaco GP, American Baseball, and Spider-Man. And it says here, upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog. They've given it Game of the Year, but they're saying it's upcoming. They haven't even released it at this point, I think, on the Master System, because it came out later. I don't know, I'll have to go back and check my history on that one. And then the Nintendo NES gets a mention here. We've got Super Mario 3, Super Mario 2, Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Brothers, Double Dragon 2, Solstice, Vaccinado, Zelda 2, Link, Iron Sword, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle with Star Wars as the up-and-coming. I don't know where they got those figures from. I think they're just rambling a bunch of Nintendo titles and hoping that they sound right. Yeah, so I got a review here in the video review section with Kevin Costner, Hudson Hawk with Bruce Willis, The Godfather Part 3, and a movie with Michael J. Fox which I'm not aware of called The Hard Way. No, can't say I know much about it. And then last off we end with the CD reviews. Prince and the New Power Generation, Boys in the Hood soundtrack, and I don't know, WBBD Boot City remix. I can't say I know that one. No. And then we add last off with a commercial or an advert for WWF WrestleMania with a huge picture there of Hulk Hogan before he had grey hairs. So that has been my look at issue 19 of Megazone. Not a great issue, I must admit. I would not have bought this if not for the fact that I was about to work there and I decided that I'd pick it up. Actually no, it was given to me. What am I saying? This was for free. But I would not have bought this magazine. It was more like a pamphlet, it was an advert, and it just did not feel like a magazine. When Stuart Clark came on board as the editor, he really did pick things up and change the magazine and turn it around. You'll start to see that on the next look at magazine number 20 onwards. Until then, please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and a huge thanks to my patrons. And also, I just want to make a special shout out mention to the channel Whatheshow. I appeared as a game show host on a Price is Right style eBay retro gaming special. So please, I'll leave the link, and please check out that channel, Whatheshow. That was actually quite a lot of fun to put together for those guys. And Dustin, I think it is the one that does the editing for that channel. Man, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, Joe, but that editing you guys do over there on Whatheshow, that's incredible, and I'm just wishing that I was anywhere near that. But until then, my name has been Brian, and I've been gaming since Spaceys. Thanks, guys.
Since Spaceys.